Hey everyone, welcome back to Harry Potter Folklore. So today we are going to be talking about the great wizard himself, Albus Dumbledore, although you'll have already correctly guessed that from the title of the video. Dumbledore is hailed as the greatest wizard of his time and has contributed more than anyone to the development of magic, the safeguarding and properly constructed education of wizards and witches, and played a crucial role in defeating two of the most powerful dark wizards to ever walk the earth, Grindelwald and Lord Voldemort. But today I want to take a look at the man's magical brilliance by examining every single piece of magic he's ever created, in addition to how he revolutionised certain underdeveloped areas of magic. So let's jump straight in here and start analysing the man's achievements. Our first piece of magic that Dumbledore created was of course the Deluminator, or the Put Outer. This was an absolutely incredible, well thought out yet simplistic magical invention that played its part for Dumbledore and others over the years. The main use of the Deluminator was to take or release light. It took on the appearance of a lighter styled in the time of when it was first created. There was a button, when pressed, it would absorb the nearest light source and a light ball would fly towards the Deluminator. If light was already taken, the Deluminator could also release the light. The light would go back to their sources if the original source was nearby, otherwise the light would stay at the Deluminator. There seemed to be another use as demonstrated by Ron Weasley. Whenever the user's name was mentioned in a conversation, the Deluminator would play a snippet of conversation just before and after the user's name was said. Activating the Deluminator after this allowed the user to apparate to the location of those speaking about the user, even when their exact location was unknown. Ron speculated that Dumbledore specifically left the Deluminator to him for this reason, so that Ron could find his way back to his friends if he ever left them, as he correctly predicted that the boy's emotions and frustrations would eventually get the better of him. In 1932, Dumbledore used the Deluminator to transport and fight both Credence Barebone and Grindelwald to a mirror dimension inside the Deluminator, but on separate occasions. This was to avoid damaging buildings or hurting or killing innocent bystanders in Berlin and Wuhan. Personally, I think the Deluminator falls under the radar a little in terms of how genuinely impressive an invention it is. Dumbledore's next incredible piece of magic was his 12 uses of dragon's blood. Okay, he didn't create dragon's blood, it's, the blood of a dragon, but he came up with the 12 uses of the substance that gained him a huge favour within the wizarding community. Now, J.K. Rowling has stated in an interview with the LA Times that one of the uses of the blood Dumbledore applied it to was as an oven cleaner. Pretty vanilla if you ask me. Oh hey, I collected the blood from a magical mythical creature and it's awesome for cleaning ovens. Dumbledore also applied that to any sort of boils, spots and lesions caused by jinxes, which effectively healed them, which led him to applying it to cuts and wounds, which healed them extremely well. It was also used in incantations and old spells that required a potion to be brewed, something like Voldemort's rebirth ritual. Dumbledore also used the blood as a form of toothpaste too. JK said she has very good reason for not revealing the remaining uses of the blood, as its incredibly powerful traits would easily interfere with the plot in the books on more than one occasion, which she wanted to be resolved in a more intelligent, climatic manner. As much as that may be frustrating, that it's once again more magical knowledge with help from us from a lore standpoint, if it makes sense to the plot story and link it all together as well as it originally did, then I won't complain too much. Dumbledore's 12 uses of dragon's blood highlights how he can take something magical and completely revolutionise it, which brings me to my next point. He took Transfiguration to a different level. Originally posted as the school's defense against the dark arts teacher, Albus was very efficient in his role, and his classes always excelled in the subject. However, it was Transfiguration that demonstrated his undeniable skill. Transfiguration was the most science-based form of magic, meaning there was no room for error. It has to be precise and accurate, or it would lead to devastating results and consequences. Dumbledore was able to instruct his students to be able to perform Transfiguration to the best of their ability by zoning in on the importance of accuracy within the subject. While highlighting the dangers of getting it wrong, he didn't install fear of failure in his students and was always well received by them. He specialised in human transfiguration, untransfiguration, trans-species transfiguration, banishment and conjuration. He was credited with several highly impactful scholarly contributions shown in publications such as Transfiguration Daily, Challenges in Charming and The Practical Potioneer. I think his transfiguration skill goes rather unnoticed due to his overall ability as an incredibly powerful wizard. Next up was a spell that contained the curse to his hand. When Dumbledore was searching the old Gaunt shack, he was successful in finding the ring, and he also knew that a lot of dark magic surrounded it, which is basically a red flag for don't put it on. However, his excitement at seeing the stone placed in the ring mount to display the Deathly Hallows symbol immediately confirmed his suspicions that he was holding the Resurrection Stone. For so long, Dumbledore had longed to talk to his parents, but most notably his sister. There were so many things he wanted to say to her, and he could finally find out whose spell it really was that killed her, either his own cast or Grindelwald's. He also lost composure and placed the ring on his finger, immediately activating the curse as it began to spread throughout his body. His quick thinking led him to cast a counter curse to contain the infection, but it weakened him greatly. It's not exactly clear whether he actually created the spell, but knowing Dumbledore's sense for preparation, he was bound to have some sort of generic anti-dark arts counter curse to suppress dark magic. There's no spell that can be applied as a counter to every other offensive spell in existence, but my belief is that Dumbledore harnessed the principles of dark magic and formed a defensive spell of his own to temporarily counter it. I could be wrong, but it makes sense to me. He received additional help from Snape after he returned to Hogwarts, and even the Potions Master could not believe that he was still alive. Our next piece of magic that Dumbledore created was the ability to communicate with the use of the Patronus charm. The Patronus, of course, he didn't create, but the communication method is his credit. It highlights again how the headmaster was able to take a piece of magic and just dissect it, then enhance it even further. The Patronus itself is incredibly difficult to conjure, so to be able to control, then record a message with it before directing it to those he wants to communicate with, well, that's just brilliant if you ask me. He was even able to teach the skill to other members of the Order, displayed by Kingsley Shacklebolt during Bill and Fleur's wedding. Something that still surprises me when I read it is how much Dumbledore actually contributed to alchemy by assisting renowned French alchemist Nicolas Flamel. Now, as much as I'd like to say he helped create the Philosopher's Stone and the Elixir of Life, he didn't. Flamel was over half a century old by the time of Dumbledore's birth, so sadly he didn't help with Flamel's greatest creation. However, he did help in other areas. For example, when it came to Nicholas deciding to discontinue taking the elixir and pass on to the afterlife. He also won the gold medal for groundbreaking contribution to the International Alchemical Conference during his participation for the event in Cairo. By the time he was an adult, alchemy was one of Dumbledore's most famous areas of expertise, and he contributed considerably to the advancement of the subject alongside Flamel. Our next piece of magic up for discussion was more of a sensory ability, and that is, of course, Dumbledore's ability to sense and detect magic around him. I mean, he didn't always make good use of that ability, if I'm honest, hence his mistake with the Gaunt family ring Horcrux. It's like, you know, I sense this dark magic, but I'll still try the ring on anyway. Dumbledore was able to detect all sorts of magic, best displayed when he was able to either see through or detect the legendary cloak of invisibility. Dumbledore knew Harry was under the cloak in Hagrid's hut and made it clear to Harry that he knew. It's not known exactly how he did this, but my guess is that it was years of training himself to sense even the smallest, most remote pieces of magic, and therefore harnessing that sense as the years went on. Our final piece of magic was Dumbledore's creation of the Blood Pact alongside Gellert Grindelwald. The Blood Pact was a type of magically binding agreement, like a contract between two parties who shared their blood. It could be made by the parties cutting their hands with their wands and interlacing them and making the desired oath. Upon doing this, two glowing drops of blood would raise from their palms and merge into one. Thereafter, a file would take shape around it, enclosing the drop, signifying that the deal was struck and serving as a physical manifestation of it. It wasn't exactly known what way the file would affect the two if one actually killed the other, but from current knowledge it appeared completely unbreakable. Anyway guys, that is every piece of magic Dumbledore ever created. If there's anything you want to add in, then please feel free to do so in the comment section below. Thanks for watching and make sure to look out for my next video.